Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is the Golf is Hard podcast. This is a brand new series of podcasts that I'm starting on my channel. Today, I kind of wanted to talk a couple of different things. I had some questions that some people asked me on my YouTube channel about golf and some equipment that I've been using. Had some equipment changes, which is really exciting. I wanted to talk about how that's kind of affected my game a little bit. Courses I got to place a couple of awesome courses. Discuss a little bit of that, the state of my golf game, and a little bit of my content journey. I started creating content about 3 months ago, and it's been an up and down ride for sure. But I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys and hopefully start to build a little bit of a podcast community here on the channel. So before we get started with a couple of these topics, I do want to do these podcasts more regularly. But the Golf is Hard podcast is not about shedding the negative light of how golf is incredibly difficult to play, but more so to make sure that we lower our expectations a little bit of ourselves. And, you know, that feeling of when you watch a pro chunk a shot or hit it thin across the green, it's kind of the same mentality with this podcast. I want to, have that same approach to it. And that's why I decided to call it the Golf is Hard podcast. Now, if you do follow me on Instagram, you will know that I use the Golf is Hard slogan a little bit. And basically after every single one of my videos, I end it with golf is hard. And it was just a thing that I came up with, and it's kind of just grew some legs, and it's just turned into something that it's just resonated with me. So that's what we're going with. That's what we're going to call this. And we're going to just run with it and see how it goes. I do have some really exciting things that I hope to be able to do with this podcast in the future. Like anyone starting off, I received a couple of really interesting questions from some of my viewers on my YouTube channel, as well as kind of DMs and things that I've received over the last sort of 4 weeks or so, both across my Instagram and my YouTube channel. The first one that I want to address is a question that I got asked by one audience member on my YouTube channel, which was, if you had to give some tips out to a beginner, what would they be? And I started my response off with, hey, I'm not a coach, because I'm not. And I just want to, jump out and say, hey, I'm not a coach. So anyone that wants to take my advice and try some of the stuff, please know that I'm only, I'm self-taught in many ways. And if I can answer a question based on my experience, that's all I will, be leading on is some of the stuff that I've experienced. So if it makes sense, if I can help someone, great. So just remember that. That's probably the one thing I will say. But this particular audience member wanted some tips around what would you do if, you were helping out a beginner. And when I started to think about that, I actually went to a range session with one of my friends who's recently got into golf, probably in the last, probably the last 6 months from what I kind of gathered with him. And naturally, the game of golf is just growing. I remember when basketball and the NBA, excuse me, was in that same growth state here. But the way I'm seeing golf grow is just incredible. I've been playing golf for probably 6 years, kind of 5 or 6 years on a competitive basis, but probably messing around, which is a bit of a backstory and why I love the game of golf and why it means what it does to me. But in saying that, I think when I look at the game of golf and I look at how many people around me are either being influenced to get involved in the sport or have just started playing the game, is incredible. And it makes doing this stuff really exciting. And with that being said, back to my friend and the story around what he was asking me kind of relates, and I'll tie this all back up. I'm kind of setting this up for you. Is he also was, very much a beginner and wanted to understand how to, swing and hit the ball further and things like that. And I think that when I look at myself, when I started to play golf, I did everything in reverse to the way I would do it today. And what I mean by that is, if I were a beginner today, I wouldn't be focusing on what clubs I should buy, or going and hitting driver at the driving range. I mean, I think anyone that's played golf, you'll probably agree with me. It's just we probably started off as beginners doing things in backwards or in reverse. and it leads to just a whole bunch of stuff with the game, and obviously not being coached, not seeking out a coach and valuing a coach's input and things like that, because I didn't know at that point. I just thought it was overpriced and not worth the time and money. So when I thought about what I would do today as a beginner, again, remember, I'm not a coach. I would simply, it's learn how to properly grip the club. It's the number one thing that even today, I think when my golf swing's not working or my game's like just gone out the window, it's probably because I've strayed away from my grip and the way I naturally hold the golf club and how I take it back in my backswing and then deliver it to the ball and then, follow through and then finish. All of that is, if you want your club head in the right position and all those types of things, I think about, well, the number one impacting factor to that is going to be how I'm gripping the club. If I've got it too much underneath or in my palm, and when it's probably super closed off at the top where, your club head's kind of facing backwards, and then, the front end of the club and the logo of the club is facing your target. That's not kind of where I want to be. I want to be a bit more kind of parallel and have my lines all kind of synced up and lined up. And the only way I'm going to do that is properly holding the club and properly gripping it. So definitely, if you're a beginner and you're someone that's stumbled upon this podcast or my channel, that's the number one thing I would say is figure out how to grip the club properly. And it might feel uncomfortable, and it should, because it'll be something completely different to the way you started playing or started gripping the club. The second thing I said to this audience member was take an iron to your backyard, find a bit of grass, and learn how to take a divot. This is a little bit counterintuitive because it doesn't involve a golf club. It doesn't involve a golf ball at this point. And it's funny because, the first two tips, I think about it, and I do this today as well. I'll go to my backyard out here and I'll just find a little bit of grass that I can kind of destroy, and I'll take divots. I'll draw a line kind of running down the center of my stance, and I'll take divots. And, I'll practice taking those divots, because what I learned was I can go and hit off a mat 100 million times, but as soon as I step onto the course, I've got no idea how the club actually reacts to the ground and how kind of steep I'm actually hitting or approaching the ball. You can get a sense of that when you're at the driving range, but I don't think there's any more greater kind of feedback that you can get unless you've got TrackMan and different types of pieces of technology that cost a lot of money. The quickest bit of feedback that I could get was just get some grass and learn how to take a divot. And what that teaches me, and what I think it will teach you if you're a beginner or even someone that's been playing golf for a while and is looking for new practice routines or ways to improve their game, is by learning how to take a divot properly, you'll also learn how to deliver the golf club to the golf ball correctly. And you can easily see this by the direction of your divot, how deep or steep it is. And if you've got a line drawn kind of in the middle of your stance, you can also see if you're hitting behind or in front of that line. And generally, when we're talking about hitting a golf ball off grass or off the fairway, you want to compress the golf ball properly, and which means you want to try to hit that thing just in front of that line. So I remember when I used to live at my parents' place, I used to destroy our backyard, and to be honest with you, it helps me to this day, and it's something that I still do. And then the third thing I said was practice with variety. No matter what you do, and no matter what I do on the practice range, the number one thing that I do is practice with variety. And this might be different for different type of golfers. I would probably say that there's real technical golfers. There are golfers that rely purely on sort of like feel, and this is my take on it, right? So let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. But there's those number two was the feel. How much you want a certain feeling for your swing to work, and I'm probably there. And then there's the super creative golfers that are just, hitting shots left and right, and shaping the ball really creatively, or playing creative shots around the green. I think about Mac Boucher. I don't know how to say his name properly. The Canadian golfer who's a content creator. He'd be a creative golfer for me. And he'd probably, there'll be a level of overlap between all three of them for sure. You've got to be creative, you got to have some kind of feel, and you got to be technical. You can argue that fact too, but I think you will know if you're someone that just relies on numbers and certain, technicalities in your golf swing and things like that, then you're probably relying on your technical ability to play golf properly. Whereas if you're someone that's feel and creative, you're probably more of, how am I seeing this shot? How am I seeing this putt? So again, there's definitely a little bit of overlap, but going back to practicing with variety, I think what that does is it triggers off all those three different things. So if, for example, the technical stuff, you'll want to be doing some stuff that is going to focus on your backswing and where your club is, and then where your club is when it's delivered to the ball, and then where it is on, when you kind of exit your golf swing or in your finish pose. So there's that technical side to it, there's a creative side, and there's obviously that feel side. So you want to do something that kind of sparks and triggers all those three things. That's what I focus on, and it works really well for me. Obviously, I'm still a mid handicapper, and I'm still working towards being a better golfer, but I don't think that journey of trying to search for that ever stops. It doesn't matter when you get to a mid handicap, a low, below 10, below 5, or a scratch golfer. We're constantly just searching for this stuff. So let me know in the comment section what you thought about that. This was the same sort of concept that I had for my friend when we went to the range, but apply them, see how you go. They work really well for me, and I thought it'd be interesting to share some of that with you guys. Over the last month, I had the opportunity, and what am I trying to say? I had the opportunity to play a couple of awesome golf courses here in Victoria. Number one, I played at Moona Links, the open course, which is a really beautiful course here in the peninsula. It's probably about an hour and 15 minutes drive from the city central of Melbourne, or Melbourne's CBD, and it's a challenging course. It is a links course, so it's, if anyone that has never played links before and you're trying to obviously just improve your game, I genuinely think, and it's proven, I'm not the only one, but I think links golf can really elevate your game very quickly, and it'll find you out really quickly as well, because the rough was really unforgiving. And there were some key takeaways from playing Moona Links, which I'll touch on in a second. The other course that I got to play, which was more recent, was I played at a course called Settlers Run, or Settler. Let me get this right. I played at a course called Settlers Run. Why is that? It's causing me problems. Settlers Run. That was also incredibly challenging. Both of them, scratch ratings 72. Moona Links was a little bit more challenging in terms of the length of it. I found that Settlers Run was a bit shorter, but going back to Moona Links and how links golf really elevates your game, the undulation in greens on a links course is, you just don't see that on a normal course. You might see it on championship caliber courses, but for us kind of mid handicappers and weekend hackers, mid handicappers, and kind of the guys trying to work into single digit handicaps, we're probably not going to get the opportunity to play championship courses all the time. So the times that we do, it really does stand out, and you remember these things. And overall, on the day at Moona Links, I didn't play too badly, but I'm starting to realize that as I'm starting to play more and more golf, and I'm starting to play more rounds of 18 holes, which is something I haven't done consistently for a long time, I'm starting to find that I just have one stretch of like 2, maybe 3 holes in the last 3 or 4 rounds that are blowing up my entire score. and there, I end up with a triple bogey, maybe a quad bogey, and if you're in a stable for kind of competition on the day, you've got 2 wipes or 3 wipes that really hurt your score. And I think at Moon Links, I ended up walking away just breaking 90, which again is not a bad effort. I didn't think that was not the easiest course. And one of our friends that day was just on an absolute tear, and he ended up, getting pretty close to taking out the comp medal on the day. But it's truly challenging, and links courses is something that I want to do more of. And I am working on something at the moment that I'm really excited about, which is getting down to Tasmania here in Australia. It's a southern point of Australia. It's an island state by itself, off the mainland, and it's got some of the most challenging golf courses and true links golf that Australia has to offer. And I'm really excited about that because I've contacted one course that is yet to be built and waiting to hear back from them. I'm hoping to go out and make some more content and share it with you guys and kind of take you on that journey. That's going to be really cool. But there is the pressure of kind of, some of the people that have been watching my channel, you'll know that I lost my job about 5 months ago, and I've been trying to make an income on the side. So there's definitely the pressure of trying to do that and run this YouTube channel and invest enough time to make this thing work, because I do really want to get this content right for you guys. That's the main point of this channel. So I guess that is something that I'm looking forward to, playing more links golf across the Australian summer. We're in spring now. It's going to be a really good opportunity to get heaps of footage and heaps of content and document some of that, and hopefully along the way improve my golf game, which I want to touch on as well, because I'm starting to see some stuff that's really encouraging and exciting about my golf game. The other thing, that anyone that has never played Settlers Run, finally got that right. Settlers Run, again, southeast of Melbourne. It's about 60 k's from the centre of Melbourne, in a small suburb called Cranbourne, with 1 million people in it. Like, that's no joke. It's way too many people out that way. But Settlers Run, super challenging course. I found that challenging, and my golf game that day held up really well. I probably played the best round of golf I've played in recent memory, and I think I was in the Stableford competition for the day, and I walked away with 35 points. So it was definitely a flag handicap round for me, which will knock down my handicap a little bit, which is something I want to do a little bit more of. I haven't been competing properly, so my handicap is not kind of accurate at the moment, but I'll continue to work on that. Settlers Run was awesome. I'm going to be visiting there to make some content and document some of that stuff. But what I found about that was, as well, with these kind of link style courses, and I say style because, again, there is a big difference between Moon Links and playing something like Settlers Run. The common thing was, you get in the rough, you basically either cost yourself a drop or at least one shot out of there, because the rough is so unforgiving. Especially Settlers Run. I mean, the rough that I was in was ridiculous. I was playing with a friend that day, and he had a tough day, right? Bubba, if you're watching this, you'll know what type of day you had. And he had a tough day, first time really playing a challenging course like that, and for him. And it's always interesting watching golfers kind of experience different formats of golf, because I think when you get into it, when you get into golf for the first time, you don't realize how, you're so kind of, well, it's not that you don't realize, you're so worried about your golf swing and in the internals of, fighting your mind, getting your golf swing right. It's all about the golf swing. And then when you get onto some of these courses, you can throw all that out the window. And then it doesn't matter if you swing right-handed, because you just got to survive and get to the end of that hole, end of that, front nine, back nine, end of the 18. It can be brutal. And golf's kind of that one sport that if you're not having a good day, it's probably the worst sport to play. Guaranteed. Actually, it's not probably, it is the worst sport to play. If you're having a horrible day and you don't know how to kind of just move past that hole or just keep hacking your way forward, you'll hate the game. And if you're a beginner watching this, be prepared for it, because it looks really nice, but I think it'll grow your mental capability to just stick with something and just grind it out. And when nothing's working, it's just about progressing the ball forward and getting the hole and walking off and not worrying about your score. And it's a good lesson. And when you do start to get better, is I feel that you just start to be able to peg the 2-hole stretch back and then get things recalibrated, and then you're back on track a little bit. And I think that's kind of where you get to that, okay, cool, I'm like a 20 handicapper. And then the way you get to the next level, I think, is just no blow up holes. It's, the string of mistakes and the length that they exist for, you just pull it back. But it's kind of the way I see it. And the state of my game overall is the other thing that I wanted to talk about. I've been putting a lot of work in over the last 3 months. I've documented some of it, and I think I want to do a little bit more of that in terms of my golf journey and what I've been doing. I'm a member at Golf Studio here in Mordialloc, and it's a training center dedicated to golf. It's open 24/7, and I probably don't get there enough, to be honest. But what I found is the time that I'm putting in there, and even the time that I'm putting in hitting balls in the garage. If anyone's wondering, like, should I get a practice net? I got the Spawny SPG7 set up in my garage at the moment. And it is an awesome net. Nothing wrong with the product. But nothing beats getting out and hitting balls. And just seeing how the ball kind of, works from left to right, the direction. I found that hitting balls in an enclosed environment, then I'm going out to the course or the driving range, my alignments are way out. And it's something to be aware of. I also have another friend who's got a practice net set up, and he's kind of struggled with a slice ever since getting it. And that, I think, has everything to do with just alignment and where your body and your shoulders and your legs are all facing when you're out on the course or on the range. It's so different to when it's set up in a controlled environment. Don't get me wrong, there is so much advantages of having a net and having access to hit some balls, but I would suggest not doing it without some form of feedback, whether it is video feedback, like setting up your phone on a tripod, watching yourself back after every dozen balls or something, or if you've got the ability to set up a simulator, which I don't have, but you could use something like a simulator, obviously, for feedback. And these are some of these things are obvious, but all I'm trying to say is that having a golf net or an enclosed environment without feedback is really, to me, is quite pointless. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know exactly what you're feeling, and you don't know what you're actually producing in terms of the good and bad strikes, and how that is actually going to translate to hitting a ball straight, left or right, depending on what you're trying to do on the golf course. So just be aware of that. I did struggle a long time, and I found that just doing less or still doing enough in an enclosed environment in a net, and then also mixing that up with going out to the range once a week and kind of dedicating a little bit of time and just hitting specifically iron shots. I'm really focused in on that at the moment. For whatever reason, getting my iron game really strong, I think, is just, and with a 7-iron, like, I'm not going through my entire bag. I'm just using a 7-iron to get my swing absolutely dialed in, because I think for me the thesis or the thinking is that if I get my swing dialed in right, no matter the club I'm using, I'm good. So I've been putting a lot of work into kind of my backswing, how I deliver it, and and the direction of the ball flight, and all those kinds of things. I've also been thinking about a little bit about equipment upgrades. Now, I made an equipment upgrade to a putter about 3 weeks ago, which was the Wilson M1 Harmonized putter. It's a budget putter. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It's probably the cheapest putter you can buy, if not one of the cheapest putters you can buy. I don't know what it is about that, though. It's absolutely lit a fire under my putting game. And I'm making 10, 12 footers a lot more regularly in my rounds. I probably putted the best I've putted since I used to compete regularly at Southern Golf Club, which was my own club, with my friend Paul a few years back. I've not putted like that for a long time. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever putted like the way I'm putting right now. And some of it has to do with just an equipment change. It's funny, I've owned really expensive putters before, TaylorMade Spiders and Cleveland's and different putters. I've never gone super crazy and spent $500, $600, $700 on a putter, but I've owned some fairly expensive putters when you think about what we can actually spend as amateurs. So when I think about all of that, I now have this $89 putter that I'm using in my bag, and honestly, like, man, it has been a game changer for me and improved my putting out of sight. And I think some of that has to obviously do with the visuals and how it feels in your hand. It's funny, for me, it's just all how it kind of feels. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes I get the technical aspects of the game, and I'm not gonna. There's plenty of stuff to prove that the technicals is really, really important. And when I mean technicals, I mean the data and the, aligning your club path and all those types of things. They're really, really important. But I think they're important if you've got access to those things. But if you don't have access to those things, then what do we need to find something that actually just works. Like, what's practical for us as amateurs, and, trying to overcomplicate things with things like face to path, and how does the loft on this putter vary from the loft on that putter. Well, I think if you've got the ability to have access to a coach that's going to help you, or a fitter that's going to help you do that, if you don't have access or the money to do that kind of stuff, just find something that works for you. Doesn't matter the cost, doesn't matter the brand. And the Wilson brand is, I can't speak highly enough of it. I love their golf balls. I think they got a fantastic, awesome golf range, and I'm using their putter at the moment. I'm looking at the Dynapower driver. My M2 is kind of getting on the older side now. It's been probably 5 years since I had that, which is crazy to think. And overall, my golf game is trending up, and it's trending up quite quickly from where I was probably 6 weeks ago. And I know exactly what it's come down to, and it's just been a shift up in kind of my approach when I'm over the ball. And it's funny the amount of swing thoughts we can have and things like that. But if you can just find one that actually works for you by just, thinking about it, seeing what you're doing wrong and matching that up to a certain feel or something that you want to achieve. For example, I kept topping a lot of my shots, whether it be driver, whether it be with my irons. And I couldn't figure out for the longest time why I was doing that. I didn't know why I was topping it. And for me, when I kind of slowed down my swing, I realized that I was actually getting really quick through the ball. And when it was time to hit the golf ball, for whatever reason, my upper body was turning really quickly. And I was facing the target, and my head was already facing the target. And when I watched back on video, hitting a few golf balls in my garage, and then when I went to the range and kind of watched it again, feedback. You practice with feedback somehow. With your phone, everyone's got access to it. Do it. When I watched it back, I could see when I hit a good one versus when I hit a bad one, I was rotating so fast through the golf ball that I was just ending up not giving the club head a chance to square up and kind of get to the golf ball and compress the golf ball properly. And I was just rushing through my shots. And it didn't feel like that at the moment, But then when I watched it back, then when I did it, when I was actively hitting a golf ball and I did it, I was like, oh, I'm rushing through this. Like, I can't keep doing this. So then I was purposefully telling myself, all right, I've just got to hit down a little bit more on the golf ball, because clearly if I'm striking the golf ball on the top and I'm topping them, well, that means that I'm not completely compressing or coming down on the golf ball, right? So the one thought was hit down on the golf ball a little bit more. And then number 2 was just hold back. Keep your head over it for a little bit longer, a fraction of the second longer. So let your arms kind of swing through, is what I'm thinking, before your body turns. And what I started to realize when I put that all together, and you could get this done by a coach a lot quicker, right? So if you're trying to figure this stuff out by yourself, trust me, it's going to take you way, way longer doing it the way I'm doing it and becoming self-taught. But if you're interested in doing it this way, by all means, go for it. But after all that struggle, all that pain, I started to realize, hey, I'm turning too quickly. I got to keep my head over the ball just for a little bit longer. Let my arms swing through first. That doesn't mean that I'm not rotating and pivoting and doing all the things that in your golf swing you should be doing, but it's more of a conscious effort to just a fraction of the second hang back just a little bit to allow my head to stay still at the point of impact. And then once that was done, then I could swing through and kind of get into my finish pose. So that was a huge change for me. And then the third and final thing was I didn't understand how important it was to keep my arm or both of my arms kind of really close into my body. Instead of letting them kind of chicken wing out in the backswing like that, I'm kind of focused in on, and anyone listening to this podcast, I'm kind of demonstrating with my rear arm, being a left-hander. And the way I did this was just put, something in between here. It's an age-old drill. I put my head cover under that rear armpit and just held onto my swing, and I was swinging more naturally around my body. I got rid of more kind of shanks and those bad strikes as well. So I think I'm definitely trending in that right direction. The goal for this summer is to become a 10 or sub 10 handicap golfer. And I think I could do it. I think I'd do it because there is enough positivity. I'm hoping to play a bit more golf, hopefully a little bit more competitive golf. And, things will start to evolve naturally, I think. In terms of this channel and what I hope to be able to do with my content creation, I think I've gone past the point where, I was really stuck in a fear mentality of what people are going to think about me creating content. And for anyone that is a creator out there that's watching this and is wondering, like, should you go for it? Well, this is a sign that you should. Because at the end of the day, the one thing that I realized was no one really cares. No one's going to care if I create content or not. And most of the time it's just in your head. So just get past it. Go out and, press record on your camera and go and do whatever it is. It might be golf videos. It could be something else. But now that I'm past that initial stage, I'm hopeful that I can... The number one thing that I want to achieve with this, and I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, was I want to build some kind of community on here that is either entertained or get some value from what you're watching here. I can't see myself doing too many golf tip videos because, again, I don't feel qualified enough to do that. I could maybe do it from a self-taught perspective, but at the same point, I'm really skeptical, and I do understand that, there are way more proven methods out there and lots of great coaches out there that the first thing you should be doing as someone trying to improve the game is go and see a coach. But by all means, if you guys are a lefty, or even if you're a right-handed golfer and you kind of want to know how I practice or some of the things that I try to do, I'll definitely share that with you guys. I got no problems, but I won't really focus too much in that direction because I don't see my input being super valuable unless there is value that gets created by you guys for it. The other thing I've been doing with the channel is doing a little bit more reviews of equipment and things that I'm using. I think there's probably a little bit more of that I'd like to explore and do a bit more of. I don't know if that will open up any kind of brand opportunities and things like that, but that'll be cool to work with anyone, any brand, any course, anyone that wants to kind of just get showcased on my YouTube channel, which is growing. I think I'm at 150 subs, which is awesome. Subs aren't everything. It's all about the value in that community and how active it is. That's how I see it. Um, and I kind of have to tell myself that because I only have 150 subs. But if brands want to do some stuff, I had a brand reach out to me. I can't say their name just yet because I'm not sure if they'll care or not. But they're sending me something to do a review on it. When that's ready, I'll upload it, which is kind of exciting. Someone recognizes that what's happening here is cool, and that's always nice as a creator. The other thing that I obviously will continue to do are course vlogs. I do find my course vlogs, I'm not sure if they are, how I can kind of improve them. And if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know. I'm still trying to figure out my way of, and kind of my identity. I'm not, good. I'm not Rick Shields. I'm not these bigger creators, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a specific way that I play or that I capture video or that I showcase a course that's not valuable to someone out there. Because I think that's the one thing as a creator you learn is that, hey, someone, even if it's one person, you get some kind of value from it. And that's the only thing that I hope for. So I guess those are the things that I'd like to do. I have some travel that's kind of planned in the early parts of next year, later parts of this year, to go and showcase some really nice golf courses. So stay tuned for that. If you've not subscribed to the channel, this is the time to do it. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, wherever you're listening or watching to this, I think this will be on most podcast platforms by the time you get to hear this. But if not, the home of this podcast will be on YouTube. So please check out my YouTube channel. All my Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok handle is at Denim Pereira Golf. If you got any questions for me, any comments, leave them for me in the comment section. And I will catch you on the next episode, which at this point will be in a week's time until I find the right cadence. I wish you nothing but the best, and don't forget, golf is hard.